So, what about some of your other family members? I mean, have they also had similar experiences to you? Because I was saying to, actually, I was talking to my children and saying it took me years to realize that the family I grew up with, everybody looked at their parents in a different way, even though we had the same parents. But
Yeah.
our experiences were different. Did you find the same thing with your family?
Oh, absolutely. So I have five siblings, and
Like me.
yeah. And one of the things I think we realized after my father's funeral, we were all together having lunch, talking, sharing stories. And I think that was the point that we realized that we each had a different relationship with him. And he had shared different stories with each person. So when we started to share stories, we realized that we each had a different aspect of his life. And we're like, we at some point need to put all this together and tell this story because he had such a rich life and he shared different pieces of it with each of us. I think my father had a whole journey with mental illness and with addiction. And so, depending on birth order, you got to see different pieces of that. I think my older siblings from his first two marriages saw a very different person. And by the time he found my mom, he had settled. He
Mm,
had become the adult that he was aspiring to be. And so they got a child, they got an evolving person, not a fully formed adult. And my mom got the fully formed adult. And so we had a very different experience than our older siblings did, with our dad. But we did see sort of the tail end of him really settling early in my childhood. And
mhm,
then we also saw how he began to lose, unravel and lose the connection to his sobriety and his sort of ownership of his sanity as his life wore on, right? So
mm,
we had a sweet spot. And so there's six kids, my mom's six kids. And the oldest and the youngest, I think, had different experiences with my dad than the four of us in the center. We also, I think, all have our own varying degrees of challenge with, physical and mental, illnesses. So I have one brother who has ADHD, just like off the charts. And as kids, it was really fun. He was the one that would bring really interesting chaos, and we'd have great adventures together.
okay.
And as an adult, I imagine that it's really challenging for him because he needs to be steady. He is a father and a husband and a businessman, and it's necessary for him to maintain a steady center in order to be able to provide for his family, be a good husband, and be the person that he needs to be in his family. And so I think that he has a lot of, a lot more challenges with that. I have another brother that really kind of struggles with depression.
Mm,
And that's, really difficult for him. And so I would say, when we sit and we talk about it and we think about it, it is hereditary and we've got mental illness challenges throughout our family. And I've dealt with a lot of different things over the course of my life. And I have been, my choice was to not be medicated. And I made that choice really young. And I studied behavioral psychology and I learned how to use behavioral tools to manage my energy. And then more recently, I've learned about food and how food affects my energy, my mood, and my psychology. And so when I am fueling my body properly, I am healthier mentally and physically. And when I'm eating junk, I spiral.
If you just enjoyed that video, check out the longer version right here.